who are in a faith transition and a marriage transition because of it, right? So mixed faith marriages. And I help you create a marriage that's truly even better than before the faith transition because it's 100% possible. And I'm going to talk today about fighting, right? How to communicate without fighting, how to getting angry. Does it seem like every time you talk about church, it sort of ends up in a fight of some kind? I once had a client ask me, like, how do I communicate without anger? And I remember being at a restaurant where my husband was asking me about church and my faith transition, and it was not pretty, right? I chuckle now, but at the time, no one was chuckling. It's real. It gets so old to just always be fighting about church and rehashing those conversations over and over and over. So, first thing I want you to know that yes, it is possible to communicate about church and not fight. It is possible to communicate about church and not be angry, or at least not let anger be your response. So, let me offer you a few ideas to help if this is your pattern of behavior in your relationship. Wherever church is brought up, whenever church is brought up, it leads to tension, frustration, all of that. Let me offer you a few tips for that. So, one, get curious. Like, why are you angry? Is it because you feel attacked? Is it because you feel defensive? Both? Why do you feel attacked? Why do you feel defensive? Is it because you're afraid? Like, really start to get curious. Sometimes anger is what surfaces when we're sad. So maybe you're sad. Many people respond to sadness with anger. And a reason is because anger often feels better than sadness. It really does. So let's start to get really curious. Like, what is causing, like, what's underneath the anger? What's underneath the fighting? What's underneath all of that surface level drama that's happening in your marriage? One, get curious. Two, this one's important. Okay, listen to me on this one. Two is you gotta stop blaming, right? Often our first response to a fight is to blame the other person. You know, it's their fault for saying or doing or looking or their tone, right? It's their fault. Now, Brene Brown says it's so much easier to cause pain than to feel pain. Listen to me on that. It's so much easier to cause pain than to feel pain. Blame is a way we let me say that again. Blame is a way we deflect our own personal pain, our own emotional turmoil onto another. It makes us the victim, it makes our spouse the perpetrator, it makes us powerless, and it solves nothing. Nothing, right? So stop blaming. Okay, one, get curious. Two, stop blaming. Three, take responsibility for your emotions. Now, this is a big one. This is a big one. This is often a very new skill for so many of us. So my youngest, he's in kindergarten, and he's taught like this emotional stuff in school. He's taught some really amazing stuff, but if you were like me, this was not part of your curriculum, your education, any of that. You know, things, I'm just figuring out stuff he's being taught now in my 40s, okay? So taking responsibility for your emotions may be a skill that you just haven't been taught. What it means is to really allow yourself to feel your feelings, right? Feel the feelings. That's why they're called feelings. So allow the sadness, allow the hurt, allow the frustration. Know that they are not the problem. They are not problems. They are not to be ignored. They are not to be discounted. They are just there to be felt, to be experienced. So this doesn't mean you need to act on your hurt or your frustration or your sadness. Just feel them. Feeling an emotion and acting from an emotion are very different things. Feeling the emotion is key to dealing with life, key to communicating effectively, key to communicating without the anger response, right? Key to communicating without fighting. This is key. When we're emotionally flooded and not actively feeling our emotions, we basically turn off our prefrontal cortex, right? That executive functioning part of our brain, and we act like animals. Like, that's why it's so crazy. It's so primal. We turn off the prefrontal cortex. We basically let the limbic system run the show. We're in fight or flight or freeze. And that is why, my friends, so many of our conversations end up in fighting, in hurt, in frustration, in arguing, in anger, because we are letting the primitive part of our brain run the show in that conversation. We stop thinking rationally, and it just isn't often what we want in the long run. So, do you need to stop fighting about church? Is this something you have a problem with? I did. Let's see if coaching is what you need to learn how to stop this pattern of fighting in your mixed faith marriage. You can learn to stop the pattern. It's completely available. It may be something you need to be taught, but it is completely something you can learn. You do not have to come to your conversations with your spouse about church, and it doesn't have to end in a fight. It doesn't have to start with defensiveness. It doesn't have to be full of posturing. It can be a conversation that's fun, that's loving, that's respectful, that's mutually enjoyable. It truly can. Coaching may be just the tool you need to get you there. If you want to reach out, I offer free calls. Contact me. You can direct message me here on Facebook, email me at mormoncouples.com@gmail.com, go to my website. Let's set up a time to set up a call. We'll spend about an hour. We'll find out all that's happening in your marriage. We'll find out what you want to create, and we'll figure out how to get you there. All right, wishing you the best.